We all know that one of the biggest sacrifices we make on a low-carb and keto diet is bread. I'm sure you miss all your favorite foods like pizza, burgers, and quesadillas just as much as I do. Thankfully, Outer Isle Gourmet has completely changed the game with their delicious, low-carb, grain and gluten-free sandwich thins and pizza crusts, packed with over 60% fresh cauliflower. Their other ingredients are fresh and simple too: whole cage-free eggs, aged parmesan, and pure nutritional yeast. You'll never miss bread again. Enjoy them straight from the bag or get them nice and crispy in the oven, toaster or air fryer. Make an epic grilled cheese sandwich, a pizza loaded with pepperoni, savory pulled pork tacos, or avocado toast. The options are endless. We're excited to share they've hooked our listeners up with a discount. Visit outerislegourmet.com/low-carb-conversations and enter the code LOW-CARB-PODCAST at checkout for 10% off your order. We can't wait for you to try Outer Isle today.
You're listening to the Low Carb Conversations podcast with your hosts Leah, Holly Jean, and Amber. Here are your hosts.
I'm Leah Williamson. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner at Nourishing Conversations. I specialize in applying nutritional therapy to low-carb paleo-keto lifestyles.
I'm Holly Jean Barrett, functional nutritional therapy practitioner at Rabbit Holistic. I lead curious clients down the rabbit hole of natural holistic wellness. Starting with nutrition, I empower my clients to take control of their health and create a wellness lifestyle they love.
I'm Amber Horn, functional nutritional therapy practitioner and massage therapist at Cultivated Wellness, focusing on using personalized lifestyle and nutrition for sleep and blood sugar imbalances.
Low Carb Conversations is the podcast to help you take a critical look at the current health news headlines. Now let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Low Carb Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Leah Williamson, and I'm with my host, Holly Jean. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, Leah.
How's everything going?
Everything is fantastic. How are things with you?
Yeah, really good. I've been enjoying a delicious new product that I wanted to talk to everyone about in Australia, just for the Australians. It's called Freed Soda. So it's Freed soda. And it's basically like tea. It's a tea soda. So it's got these beautiful tea flavors like pineapple and coconut or vanilla and peach mixed with sparkling water in a refreshing can. And it's just, I love it so much because it's got natural flavors and it has no sweeteners or any sugars in it, but it still feels like you're having a little bit of fizz when you want that little bit of fizz. You know, sometimes water can be a little bit, you want something a little bit different. Do you find that, Holly?
Yes, water can be boring. I'll say it for you.
Thank you. I love water. Water is my life. But
I do too. But yeah, sometimes like you want something else.
Yeah, that's right. So Freed soda, I've been drinking those every now and then. It's nice in the afternoon, especially when you come home and it's hot and you feel like just a little bit of fizz, and it's really delicious. So I've got a little code for everybody. On your first order, you can get 10% off, and the code is LEAH10, LEAH10. I'll link that up in the show notes. If you're in Australia and you want to try this new product, it is delicious. So that's what I've been doing, is drinking some tea soda. I love sharing new products that we find, little quirky things or whatever's coming out. I love all the new products that you can get these days, because I remember back to a point where, you could hardly get anything. Remember like in the gluten-free early days, it was a complete junk. At least now there's some really great products that are coming out, and hopefully we can discover and share some more things with everybody as we find out these new products.
Yeah, love it. I don't have any new products, but I started reading a new book. I don't know what I've done to deserve some free time in my life to start reading a book for pleasure. But I have, it's Kelly Brogan's book. It's Own Yourself. And I am just like so drawn to it. It's all about like healing your body by like reconnecting to your body, and how like you have to think of yourself as like mind, body, and soul, and not in different compartments. And it's just really insightful and inspiring. And like she shares a lot of her journey. And so I am in it. It's a great book.
That sounds like a great book too. We'll link that one up as well. It'd be good to get Kelly on the podcast. Maybe we should reach out if anyone's listening. Let's get Kelly on the podcast for a chat.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But today we have an amazing guest, and I absolutely just loved this chat with Heather England of Fit Mama Real Food. We talked a lot about feeding children and just thoughts around families and emotional aspects of all of that. And I really, really enjoyed this chat. I felt really inspired afterwards. How about you, Holly?
Yeah, I agree. We covered a lot. And really like there's so much to unpack, like when you're a mom or just trying to feed a family, and there's so many different avenues to explore, especially with your kids when it comes to food and health and eating. And I really love Heather's philosophy, and she has some really wonderful tips to go over. And I think our listeners will get a lot out of this episode, especially if they are eating real food and trying to get their family on board with that as well.
Yes, definitely. So let's go and take a listen.
Our guest today is Heather England of Fit Mama Real Food. Heather is a fitness instructor. She is a real food advocate, a mother, a wife, and an entrepreneur. We'll come back to that in a minute. She also has a weekly podcast, and she talks about real food and fitness and motherhood and mindset. So welcome to the show, Heather.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk with you ladies today.
Fantastic. And hi, we have Leah with us as well. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Holly, and hi, Heather. Excited for this chat today.
Me too. So Heather, I have actually been following you on social for a while. Like, I just love your feed. I love how practical and easy it can be, like how you show to just like be able to feed yourself and to feed your family real food, like without having to become a slave to the kitchen. And I think one of the biggest challenges I hear from other moms and from clients is like this complaint of how much time it takes to prepare real food. And yeah, it is more time consuming than like driving through fast food, but you really paint it as like it doesn't have to be hours upon hours of prep work in the kitchen and cook time. And you just have this relatable and balanced approach to food and health, which I think is like this unicorn that so many of us are like looking for, like how we do it all. So I would love to hear, like, why don't you first like tell us a little bit about like how you came to become someone who shares this lifestyle and business and balancing it all, and like how you just got to where you are today.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for those kind words. I was just smiling as you were saying it, totally not expecting that. So thank you so much. And how it all started, I feel like I could take that story a few different ways, but really my love for food and cooking started when I was a teenager. I remember being in the kitchen and just creating food, like opening up a cookbook, but doing my own thing. But I never thought that would turn into anything. It was just kind of what I like to explore doing. And then right after getting married, I started my blog. So that was in 2008. And really that was me beginning to share about my journey to learning what healthy looks like for me. So I was in the throes of reading and learning and taking some classes at the local college, finding out like what does good nutrition look like for me, and what exercise do I enjoy? I also became a group fitness instructor a couple of years after starting that. So my journey first started with me just sharing what I'm learning, not as an authority figure at all, just hey, this is what I found, and this is what's working for me. This is not what's working for me. And then over the years, as I, again, take more classes, got more certifications, my space shifted into more of a teaching and a little more of authority in those areas that I had begun studying about, a lot about fitness, and I would share workout videos, but also about like recipes and how to cook and how to make something a little bit more healthy. And I always like to share that my version of what healthy looked like for me 12 years ago is so different than what it looks like now. Back then, I definitely looked at labels on packages, and when a company said it was healthy, I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's healthy. They're telling me it's healthy." And as I learned more, I began to read the ingredients that go into the food, and so that's really where my focus shifted to real food instead of maybe what a marketing company might tell me is healthy or just low fat or fat free, and really focusing on the calories. It shifted away from that. And then I began having kids and thinking about feeding them. And of course, as you have kids, your time is stretched. And I really wanted my focus to be on feeding them well, feeding myself well, so I could feel good. And so just finding strategies to feed everybody and not have it be this headache, and really get back to that creative side that I found as a teenager, just being in the kitchen and creating. And with that came learning a lot more strategies that I share with parents, recipes and meal plans to really simplify it. And one tip that I'll offer now, and we can totally get into a ton more tips, is yes, thinking about being in the kitchen all day can be super overwhelming, but the strategy that helps me is to, one, have a plan. Of course, you have to have a plan to know what you're going to do, but to just do a little bit extra when you're already in the kitchen, so that you're not thinking about the hours of prep that you feel like you have to do, because you don't have to. But if you're making breakfast, can you spend 2 or 3 minutes getting a little bit ahead for lunch or dinner? Because it really does make a huge difference. But the only way we can do that is if we have a plan to go with it. I hope I answered your question with the introduction, or if there were other questions I missed, let me know what they are.
Yeah, no, that was good. And I think that's like really relatable too, like how you like didn't set out to be like, oh, I want to be an authority, but like through sharing your journey and like what works for you. Like I think people are really kind of drawn to that because you're not just here, do this and do that, but it's like this is what has worked for me and this is what I'm finding useful. And it is just like so much more relatable. And I love that you were able to build a business around that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your business is now?
Yeah. So this past year, at the fall of 2020, I began a meal plan membership. I've shared meal plans in the past just with my audience, and they were always asking for grocery lists or a consolidated plan, like in a PDF format. And this past year, I just felt the tug to finally create it, because that was the hiccup that I kept hearing, was that dinner time was stressful. Coming up with ideas over and over again was just overwhelming. And sometimes, even when there's so many ideas out on Pinterest or websites, it's just that decision fatigue and overload of information. And so I created this meal plan membership with the strategy to save time. And the way that the meal plans work are that we have 4 dinners a week. We pick 2 proteins in the week, and we cook our first meal, double the protein, and then that protein that's already cooked gets turned into a totally new meal later in the week. So we're not having leftovers, we're having 4 different flavors, and it really saves time. There's 4 weeks in every month, and there's grocery lists, easy prep. If you want to use the strategy that I shared about getting a little bit ahead, or some people do like to prep on the weekends because they work all throughout the week. So I give that flexibility to make it work for the families. And one of my favorite parts about the membership is we have a community, and every week I share about how you can change this meal plan to make it work for you. And I am such a believer in substituting when you need to. And if you have certain dietary restrictions or changes, allergies, like there's ways that you can change recipes, and it's always okay to change them. And so I empower my community members to ask questions if something's not going to work in it, and let's figure out how to make that meal work well for your family. And it's funny because as a recipe developer, we test recipes and make them perfect, but then I go and say, you can change recipes too, because that's just real life. We've got to make it work for our families.
Yeah, but sometimes that's what like gets people caught up. It's like, wait, I can change it. I don't know how. Like, I need an exact plan. I am one like my husband hates leftovers. Well, at least that's what he says, but he has no idea that he eats leftovers all the time. They just look different. So I love that repurposing the food. And the kids too. It's like, Mom, we just had this. So it's like, oh, if you can just kind of like turn it into something else, then they don't even know.
Yeah, and it saves you so much time, less food waste, and you can buy in bulk and save money. So there's so many benefits to it.
Want to eat decadent chocolate every day, completely guilt-free? Stop saying no to all of your favorite desserts and start enjoying food again. Cacao Bliss from Earth Echo Foods allows you to eat all of your chocolatey favorites while making a positive impact on your health. Cacao Bliss crushes cravings, promotes proper gut health, relieves stress, supports brain health and mental focus, helps sustain energy throughout the day, and even supports your weight loss goals. It's the perfect blend of the world's most powerful superfoods: Peruvian cacao, turmeric, MCT oil, coconut, Himalayan sea salt, cinnamon, and black pepper. And it has more antioxidants than broccoli, blueberries, and even kale. Plus, enjoying this chocolatey goodness and getting all of the superfood benefits is easier than ever. Devour it in thick, velvety hot chocolate, enjoy it in delicious chocolate smoothies, or spruce up your morning cup of coffee, all guilt-free. Right now, Cacao Bliss creator Danette May is giving 15% off of this delicious and powerful superfood blend to our listeners. All you have to do to claim yours is visit earthechofoods.com/low-carb-conversations and enter the code LOW-CARB. She'll send you a Cacao Bliss along with a digital recipe guide so you can start enjoying it right away.
Well, it sounds like you are absolutely so full of tips, and I really want to dive into like just some ways that we can help other people out there who may be struggling with answering that question that we're always wondering, what's for dinner? And yeah, like you mentioned, that idea fatigue. And it's like, as moms or just as like busy working people or people who are concerned about their health, like we all have too many decisions to make in the day. And if we can just have someone tell us, here, this is what you're eating, this is the meal plan for the week, it just frees up our brain to think of like all the other things instead. Leah, what do you have to add here?
Oh yeah, I was just listening going, you must be like my kindred spirit because I so agree with everything that you've been saying, Heather. I'm like, I just love that, and having the plan, and, you know, and I think, Holly, you're so creative that you actually turn it into something else. I just keep giving my family the same food.
As long as they don't complain.
That's right. If I'm on a winner, well, you can have that 3 nights in a row because you're going to eat it.
I didn't say I don't get complaints. Some of them win and some of them are like a total miss.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah, but I think it is such a great idea to take that stress and thought out of everything and have that meal plan kind of ready to go for you as well. And yeah, I think that's such a great idea to help busy families just get things together so that you can eat well and it doesn't have to be difficult or time consuming, and then you can spend more things doing the things that you love together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's something that so many people can do and might enjoy to do, but when we get so just pulled in so many directions, and especially this last year has put a lot more on our plates. And if you can get something taken off of your plate, like meal planning, it can just free up the space, mental space, your energy to do other things and spend time with your family.
Definitely. Well, I've got the first article, Holly. Is that right to go into that one right now?
Yeah, let's get to it because it has some good stuff in it.
Okay, cool. So this first article is called Kids and Food, 10 Tips for Parents. And it's basically like a list of different tips that have been put together by a group of medical providers, it looks like. And they've got a list of 10 key rules to live by. And I guess I want to have a look at some of these and really kind of dissect them and think, is this really a rule to live by, or is it really a rule to live by? I guess, you know, the positives and the negatives of it as well. So the first one is parents control the supply line. So this is basically talking about, as a parent, you buy the food that's in the house and that's what the children eat. And if they don't eat it, they won't go hungry because they need to eat. So eventually they'll come around and eat. So, Heather, what are your thoughts on that kind of, you supply everything that's coming into the house? Because I know for me personally, when someone used to say this to me, it used to trigger me a bit. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts were about it.
Oh, Leah, well, this rule is something that I definitely preach and share, and I'll be curious. I want to hear your response in a minute about it too. But it's something I believe, because my kids, if I bring something into the house that I necessarily don't want them eating, they gravitate towards it. And then you have the battle of saying, oh, no, don't eat that, if you don't want them to eat that, or them just kind of bothering you for it all the time, and then missing out on those foods that you might want them to enjoy a little more. So it's a rule that I definitely live by in my house. It's one that I share with my community when they talk about their kids only want the snacks in the house. Well, if they're not there, they're going to have to get creative and try something else. I mean, my kids are going to gravitate towards the most sweet or processed thing if it's there, and that's just how they are. So if I don't have that there, they're not going to gravitate towards it because it's just not an option. So I'm all for this. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, and while I totally agree with you, I once heard someone speaking and they said this, this was when, quite a few years back, and I was like, but that's so harsh. Like, yeah, I do control the food, but, children have foods they like and dislike as well. I remember as a child, there were certain foods I didn't like that I learned to like as an adult. So I was coming from that perspective. But then also, as my children got older, I had a phone call from a mum who was telling me that one of my children was eating out of somebody else's lunchbox, because we take our lunchboxes to school, because he wanted some of the foods that were in there. And she was wondering if I was she didn't say depriving, but, not allowing him to experience a full range of foods. And I felt so conflicted in that moment, because I was like, well, I don't want him to be eating those foods, but then I don't also want him to be missing out. So how could someone navigate that kind of situation?
Yeah, I can totally understand that feeling as a parent. And even though I don't bring them in my house, I feel like my kids still experience them when they were in school, when they're in soccer and getting treats. If they go to church, they get treats. So I from my point of view, I feel like they're not lacking it. Like if we go to a birthday party, I'm not like, no, don't eat the cake or the cupcake. Like it's a special occasion, enjoy it. So I guess it depends on like what they're exposed to. If they're kind of home all the time and not around, treats and different foods, they might feel like they're lacking it. But at the same time, I think that they can also find joy in homemade treats. And it's not that there's a lack of sweets that can happen. They could be homemade. But I know that there is a lot of emotion that people hold with food. And so I can see where that mom was maybe coming from, that like she sees that as like joy and maybe love, and they're missing out. But I think that when we tie so many feelings to food, and that they have to, they don't have ice cream in the summer, they're missing out. We can find joy in so many different experiences, and it doesn't have to be food.
Yeah, I love that. That's such great tips there. And I guess the middle ground that we came to, or the compromise that we came to, was that I would back off a little bit when he wanted something that, not that I didn't necessarily agree with, that I just wanted to, I guess, regulate, not, didn't want him eating like kind of every day. And what we came up with was, during the week he would pack the lunch that I wanted him to eat and not take from anyone else's lunch boxes. And then once a week at the school canteen, he could buy what he wanted. But we also talked about that too. Like, does that, is that a good choice that you're making today? Will that leave you feeling sick or give you a tummy ache? So maybe one of these other choices on the list might be a better one. And that's kind of how we got round that situation. And I think over time I've come to realize, like, yeah, there's different levels with your own unique personalities of your children that you need to navigate, as well as the what you are controlling and bringing into the house as well, I think. So, yeah. So Holly, did you have any thoughts on that one?
I did. Yeah, I'm kind of going through this with my oldest. He's almost 10 and he's like just in that phase of like, it's kind of like peer pressure and he wants to do what his friends are doing. And like the cool thing right now, the cool snack that everyone has is flaming hot anything. So it's the Cheetos, it's the Takis or whatever. I don't know what this obsession is with flaming hot, but it's like all the kids are always having like these flaming hot chips. And it's like, to touch on what that mom said of like your kid missing out or depriving him of something. And it's like, yeah, I don't want my son to feel like he's not cool because he can't have junk chips like the rest of his friends. And so like that's something that we compromise on. And it's not something that I choose to have in the house. Like I don't buy it to have in the house, but I have been able to find like a healthier alternative like from Trader Joe's. So maybe it's not like the Cheetos brand. And so I'm trying to work with him. It's just trying to like do that balance of like let my kids have something so they're not like the oddballs out of their friends or sneaking and eating out of someone else's lunchbox, but at the same time like helping like just helping them understand that, okay, well, that might not be the healthiest choice or the best choice for you. And we can have it once in a while and we can have like a healthier version. I don't know. I will just say that I am in the thick of it right now and I'm having a hard time navigating it.
I feel for you for sure. My oldest is a year younger than your boy, and I'm grateful that like we can have conversations about why we choose certain foods over others, but it's hard. I just want to like put my arm around your shoulder and I feel you on that.
Well, and it's so silly, but I also like feel judged. So like it's totally my own like issues with myself, but like on the days we homeschool, but we do have like enrichment classes. So the days that I do send them to school, like I feel like other teachers or moms are looking at my kids' lunch going, oh, what is the holistic nutritionist putting in her kids' lunch? And there's flaming hot Cheetos.
Feel like she's gone off the deep end.
I love that too. I've got a story about that because, in the local area, quite a few of the mums kind of had been to events and things that I've been running. And then when my daughter started school, I held a birthday party for her, which had everybody there. And a lot of the mums were like, oh, I'm really excited to see what foods you're going to be offering because, you talk about paleo and real food so much. And I was like, that's a lot of pressure. Like, I don't know if I can live up to that. But what I actually did was I put out all the things that I wanted to see there, like, healthy snacks. And then I put a few things like popcorn and stuff like that, which, isn't traditionally paleo, but was still a healthy snack for them to have out. And I put a mixture and variety of things. And one of the mums was like, I'm really disappointed. I thought we were going to have a full paleo party. And I was like, well, maybe next time. Yeah. Oh. Birthday parties, it's such a pressure time. Heather, do you have any tips for navigating birthday parties or events and functions and things like that with the children?
Yeah, I feel like my spread would be kind of similar to what you shared, like the healthy snacks, but then kind of a little like an extra cracker or something that I normally wouldn't have around. But I'll make like a normal, I guess I would call it, cake for them. And the rest is like healthier choices. I'm all about like enjoy your birthday. It's once a year. Sometimes like for my birthday, maybe I'll make like a healthier, low sugar cake, but I also like give myself the right to just enjoy making a sweeter treat. But then finding that balance, like we're not going all out and just having like only hot dogs and pizza and cake. We're going to have like veggies and some nice protein. And I love doing like a buffet kind of style so that everyone can pick what they want. And make it work for them. And I also think like when people are coming to a party, they shouldn't have expectations of like a certain kind of meal that they're going to get. Like they're getting a meal or they're getting treats and stuff. So you're getting free food.
Back off, mums. It's not going to be paleo.
That's right. But I just in general, like I love serving healthy food. So making it colorful, have a beautiful fruit tray and a veggie tray. and maybe some dips or something, or have a theme, like do a taco bar. So you can make those things as healthy as you want, but then people can create the version that they want. So giving people the choice of what they want on their plate, I think, is a really great place to go with parties, so that everybody can have what they would like. And then at the end, there's normally a treat.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I like that idea. And what about, in Australia, it's like tradition to give like a party bag at the end, and the kids take home like another bag of like full of sweets. And I always think, what kind of idea is that? They've just been loaded up on sugar and now I'm taking home a full bag of it. No, thank you. Or they do a piñata and drop all the sweets out of that, and the kids like have handfuls, and my daughter's like shoveling them into my bag, and I'm like at the other side taking them back out again. So I think, do you call them party favors? Is that what they're called?
I think they are called that, yeah. And I typically don't do party favors because I don't like the little junk and things brought into my house, like the little trinkets that end up going in the garbage. And so, I sorry, children, if you come to my house, you probably won't get that. But we have done a piñata before, and I had a baggie for them. And when I put that, I put like stickers and temporary tattoos, and I am a raisin box kind of person. And I think I put in some chocolates, but it was a balance of like little fun things, a couple of treats, but not all, because I just believe that like it doesn't have to be all about the sweets. You can still have a good party and a good time, even if you're doing things a little different. And I think my friends just know that I'm just a weird one, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, we need more weird ones.
Yeah.
Weirdos unite. I love that. And yeah, once before, I've given out like bubble wands or something like that, something that they can actually have fun with, or some kind of little creative thing to go home with, rather than little plastic bits of things that you're just going to throw away, or more a whole, like they're already just loaded up on sugar and then getting a whole bag of sweets. That one I never understand. So
yeah, I agree.
So I wanted to talk too, because like I guess as we've been talking now, we've been labeling a lot of things. Like, I've mentioned paleo quite a few times. And I know you like to talk about staying neutral about foods. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you navigate this topic?
Yeah, so of course I have my thoughts about what foods I prefer us to eat or not. But with my kids, I really try not to say like this food is bad or this food is good. We talk about like ingredients a lot. So like where does this ingredient come from? Did this grow from the ground? Did it have a mother? Or we'll look at a package and talk about the things that go into it, and use that as a jumping off point as to how it's going to serve our bodies. And when it comes to treats or processed foods, I just try to talk with my kids about how they're sometimes foods, and maybe they don't serve our body in the best way, but they can be fun sometimes. Because I think when kids are told, no, you can't do this, you can't have that, they're going to want to do that, and they're going to want to have it. And so I don't want them to go into situations at school, at parties, at friends' house, and then see this thing that was like, this is bad, don't have it, and then just go crazy for it. It's not going to create a good balance for them. So I'm really careful about the language that I use around food. I'm never, ever saying like, oh, this food is going to make me fat. Like, that is not language that I ever use in my house, nor do I think it. But it is something I've commonly heard around other people that were around, and so I'm very aware about the language that I use, because I don't want them to have these associations with food that it's going to, one, change them, and they have to like monitor their food. They're just kids, and I want them to make colorful, healthy choices. And so I'm very aware about like how I speak with them about kids. And I would love to hear what you ladies do as well with that, because it's a topic that I think is really important and crucial with teaching our kids about food.
Definitely. I'll throw to you first, Holly.
Yeah, again, this is something that I am in the thick of, and trying to find more ways to be creative with what I say to my kids, because when they were younger, it was easier, and it was like, okay, so this food or this ingredient makes our body feel good, and this one can kind of make us feel a little bit yucky, and just like talking about how the things we eat make our bodies feel like that. I feel like that was easy when they were little, and because we didn't have treats and junk food a lot, they were able to feel that difference in their body themselves. But now that they're older, like my vocabulary and explanation has not matured with them. So I'm still talking to them like they're little kids. So trying to find out like the way to talk about ingredients and food for them and making healthy choices without putting that stigma on things, but also not making it boring. Like I don't know. I'm trying. I'm trying.
It's a constant battle, I feel, as well. And I totally can relate to what you're saying, Holly, because I go through the same thing. My eldest is nearly 11 as well, so similar age groups. And, you know, when I start talking to him about food choices, he's kind of like, I don't care, Mum. I'm just going to eat it anyway. Like, you know, get that attitude back now. And it's interesting because I do have to watch myself, because we do talk about food a lot, because, you know, being in the industry that we're in, there's always conversations about food going on, and we're foodies and we love to cook, you know, so food is a big thing in our household. And we were talking about my father had type 2 diabetes, which is now in remission, which is great. But we'd been talking about it, and my daughter was asking about how he got that. And I was talking to her about, you know, years of eating sugary foods and, you know, stress and all these kind of things. We were listing out all the things that could be potentially it. And then, you know, and then like a few hours later, or maybe even the next day, we were at a situation where maybe a party or something, my daughter was like going for the donuts, and, you know, she doesn't go for just one. She goes for like, wants 2 or 3 of them. And my son turned around to her and said, "You need to stop that. You are just walking diabetes." And I was like, uh-oh. You know, it's great that they can make that connection, but then also on the other hand, how much of this am I talking about in every day? So I love, Heather, your philosophy around, just trying to stay more neutral about it, and not, you know, not, I guess, buying into that conversation like to the level that they are as well. So it's tough.
And I think with food, also your story really made me laugh a lot about the walking diabetes. I think that modeling is something that I use a ton, because what they see, they pick up on sometimes so much more than the words that we speak. We can say one thing, but if they see us doing something different, then are they going to really believe what we're saying? If we're saying, oh, you need to eat your vegetables or you should eat healthy, but then they see us doing not what we're saying, it doesn't have as much weight and impact. So, I mean, I'm a believer that if we are wanting our kids to want to choose healthy foods, that also needs to be starting from them seeing us doing it, and doing it with joy. Like, not like, oh, I got to eat my vegetables, or, oh, I can't eat this. Like, finding joy in food and enjoying your meal and letting them see it and trying new things and being positive around food, because that's going to rub off on them as well.
I so agree with that. That's such a great way to look at it as well. You know, they do absorb so much. They are listening constantly all the time, as obvious in my conversation.
Yeah.
And you try and be the best role model as possible. And, you know, that even, you know, whenever we pass, you know, McDonald's, whenever it is, and we don't eat there, one of my daughter will always be like, "Can I stop and get food here?" And my son will always say, "No, Mum and I don't eat McDonald's." So I'm like, yes, I got to win there for that one.
I love it. My kids had a weekend with their grandparents that took them to McDonald's. And then not long after, we're driving in the car, and my oldest, he's like, "Oh, that place with the M, oh, they make the best food. Can we eat there sometime?" Like, they make the best food. Come on, I'm cooking for you all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Don't offend me.
I just had a I just had a similar thing. My husband and I were out of town, so the kids were with grandma, and I came home to saying, "Mom, have you ever had a Whopper? It's the best burger ever." It's like, no, I'm pretty sure I've never been to Burger King, the home of the Whopper. But yay, I'm so glad grandma took you there.
Oh, grandparents.
I know. And I love that too. Like, oh, they were so hyperactive all day. I don't know what was in them. I was like, what were you feeding them? Like McDonald's? Come on. What do you expect?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love that though, like the kids do as you do. And that was one of the things on the list. But yeah, like you have to model it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my kids don't see me driving through a Burger King.
Yeah. Well, we've certainly covered a lot there. And one we touched on just briefly that I just want to finish up on, which I think is a really good one, is that emotional attachment to food as well. And so we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but what I wanted to know was what kind of things do you offer as, I guess, rewards for your children? What kind of strategies do you have? Like, I know a lot of parents, it's easy just to say, clean up your mess, clean up your plates, I'll give you dessert. So then children start to associate, oh, if I do a good job, then I get sweet things. So how do you kind of navigate those situations, Heather?
Yeah, I really try not to tie food as a reward for them. Although I will be contradicting myself because my 2-year-old daughter has not wanted to poop on the potty for like a year. And as a reward, when she has the last couple of times, I've given her a chocolate chip. So I'm contradicting myself there. But in general, as a reward, we might like play a game, or I might let my son play a little more video games. We try to tie it to like getting to do something, not so much food. I'm trying to think back to potty training when I would not use that chocolate chip. Like they would get stars and get to go pick out a toy, things like that. So tying it to food, I try not to, just because I remember as a kid I had an emotional attachment to food, and I had to break that habit going into a teenager and a young adult. So it's not something I want to set my kids up with. But like I said, I've been giving a couple chocolate chips, so it's a process, I guess.
Yeah, and I love that you're being honest, and I think so many other parents can relate to that as well. We can't be 100% perfect all the time. I think given all the stories we've just been sharing today as well, and maybe sometimes there is a time and a place where food can be a reward. I think like there may be different situations because maybe that's the child's love language. Holly, you've got a story around that.
Yeah, I was sharing with Leah before we hopped on. It's like my youngest, like his motivation and his reward to anything is food. Like food is his love language, and that is how he feels love. That is how he gives love. And he's little, and he's always been that way. Like even when he was a breastfeeding baby, like he wanted it all the time. But I was sharing, like, now we're in this situation where like he's being left out a lot because his older brother's friends are his friends, and he doesn't know any different than that. But a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old is a big difference. And so the 10-year-olds don't always want the 6-year-old around. And my little guy doesn't understand why his friends didn't invite him to something. And so then it's just the two of us. And all he wants to do is like that quality time, or do something while his brother and his friends are ditching him, is like go get ice cream or to go do something. And it's always something having to do with food. And I'm very aware of like what that messaging is, and like trying to suggest other things, like we'll go watch a show, or we'll go do something, or we'll go to the park. But it's like his go-to already at a very young age is going to sweets.
Yeah, and I think in that time, so long as I think it's maybe probably more about the time that you're spending together as well. Like, so while the focus is going out for whatever it might be, but it's actually that time that the two of you are spending together as well. So maybe he'll look back and remember that from a different perspective as more.
And it might be, yeah, you're right. It might be like also some like, well, while you were with your friends, I got to have ice cream with mom, because we hardly ever go out to ice cream. So it might be more of like a in your face too.
That's true too.
I love it. Yeah, well, he probably did it once, and he was like, "This is really fun." I got to have this time with mommy, and it was delicious. So it's probably an easy go-to for him too.
Yeah.
And there's a new television show that's just come out. I think it's called Yes Day. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one yet, but my children were watching it the other day, and it's about these, the parents always say no constantly all the time, and so the kids decided they want to have a yes day, and the leading up to it, the kids had to do all these different chores in order to receive this yes day, and there was some rules around it, and I was kind of like, I like that idea in some ways, depending on what I'm going to say yes to. I've put some boundaries in there, but it gives children that, I guess, that still rewarding them for all the things that they've been doing, but it wasn't so much focused on, going out for food or whatever it might be. It was focused more around them allowing them to make some decisions and feel good around the house. So I thought that was kind of like a good idea as well. And another thing we've used before is reward charts where, the kids do their particular chores or whatever tasks or whatever it might be. And at the end of that, they can decide what the reward is in negotiation with us. And, I realized it was never really about food most of the time. It was more about like, can we go on a bike ride? Can we go for a walk together? And there was very little focus on, can we go out for ice cream, which I thought was quite surprising when we actually sat down and did it together as a family. So maybe there's some other ideas there too.
Oh, yeah.
I like that idea. I love that they just wanted quality time, because that's what kids want so much. And that Yes Day show sounds really fun.
Yeah. It is a good one. And sorry, I was going to say, Holly, speaking about television and TV shows, I was going to throw over to the next article for you, unless you have something else to say now.
No, that's what I was going to say too. I was going to say perfect segue into this next article about television shows. Yeah, so I have not heard of this show yet, but I found this article. And so there's a new show out the characters are Waffles and Mochi, and it's a show on children's food. It's about why children's food shows need to focus on healthy eating. And so the idea of the show is that it's to teach children where food comes from and some ways of cooking it from scratch instead of just buying pre-made meals from the supermarket. So the characters are Waffles and Mochi, and they're puppets. And so they are determined to learn how to cook and prepare fresh meals. And so, and it's after they were living on like a really terrible diet of like ice cream. So like my son. So, but they travel the world, and they like have a magic shopping cart, and they meet celebrity chefs, and they get to do all this cooking. And like, I love the idea of this because I definitely believe that TV programs are like TV programming. Like there's definite like subliminal mind messages in our TV programs. And I think there's so many things on TV that maybe paint the wrong image for our children. I love that there's this idea out there now that can kind of give a different story or a different version that could really inspire kids to want to learn about cooking. So Heather, I was wondering if you heard of this show yet, or have you seen it, or what are your thoughts around it?
No, I hadn't heard of it until I saw the article that you sent over. And in our house, as somebody who loves food, I love watching cooking shows. And I was thinking about the shows that we do watch most often, and they are typically not about healthy food. And so definitely it would be great if there was a show about cooking that you could watch with your kids that was, like Cook from the Rainbow or some challenges around like eating healthy. But I think it sounds really cool, teaching them about where your food is coming from, and then how to make it, because not everybody grows up with their parents cooking. And so if they're not being exposed to that from their family members or somebody close to them, it can be really great for them to see it in a different way. But definitely a show that would focus on healthy food, that would be amazing, because I don't even know if that is out there.
Yeah, such a good idea. I mean, I guess it's all subjective about what they're saying is healthy food, but it's a start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I love it. Leah, do you have any shows in Australia? I know you don't have all the same shows, but do you have something that's maybe a cooking show for kids or anything?
Not really as such. I know they have like Master Chef. They'll have like Junior Master Chef on, which the kids come in and cook for that one. But it's not kind of like, I guess, the idea of this one that we've got the article on, which is more from that kind of real colourful and entertaining perspective. This is more of from a competition perspective. But so I'd be excited to see different shows like that coming through. I think it's a great idea to get people excited about being in the kitchen again. I remember when my son was really young, my sister-in-law gave him a kids recipe cookbook and a little apron and a little chef's hat and maybe a rolling pin or something like that. And it was just the cutest thing. He was just like going through the book and bookmarking what recipes he wanted to try. And it really kind of sparked his interest in cooking. And I think just little things like that can make such a big difference in getting children excited about being in the kitchen.
I love that. Yeah. I'm a huge proponent for bringing kids into the kitchen with you, teaching them. It's such a lifelong skill that they're going to benefit so much from being able to like cook healthy meals for themselves. Definitely. I never shoo the kids out.
Not just heat up hot ramen and call in.
Yeah, that's right. We call them 2-minute noodles in Australia. So I had a 12-pack of those all ready to go every semester when I went away for university. I want to finish up just with one last article here, which is just around exercise, because Heather, I know exercise has been such an important part in your journey. And so we're shifting focus now from rather than talking about the family as such, but maybe talking about some things that are good for the parent to do to really make them feel good. And this article had an interesting question. It was kind of like, if you were offered a pill that could improve your mood, energy level, sleep, sex life, while at the same time decreasing your risk of high blood pressure, diabetes, some cancers, and osteoporosis, would you take it? And it sounds almost too good to be true, but the miracle drug is actually exercise. So Heather, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about how you incorporate exercise into your every day and how it's impacted your life.
Yes, I'm definitely into exercise. My habit began while I was learning about being healthy and what exercise I liked, and then becoming a group fitness instructor. But this last year, I haven't taught or been to a gym in over a year now, and I've still continued the habit because I am just such a nicer person when I exercise. My mental health is better. I have more energy. I just feel better overall. And the thing that keeps me motivated to continue exercising are the times that I don't. So sometimes I'm a normal person. I get tired and maybe I don't feel motivated to move. So I don't exercise for 3-4 days. And then I start to just feel like a little more down, a little like more lazy. And I know what I need to do is to like get my butt up and go move or get it back on my schedule. And so I am diligent about getting up early before the kids. I'm a morning person, so it's not a big deal for me to wake up early. I work on my computer for my blog, and then I always get out to the garage or go on a walk or go down to the basement and do some yoga, some kind of movement, because it just makes me feel so much better. And I mean, they talk about endorphins after exercise, and it's so true. Like, get in a good workout and it's going to make you happier. But finding the kinds that you like is so important. I'm not strict with myself about what type of exercise that I do. I know what I want to try to get to in a week. Strength training is really important. I enjoy it. I love going on walks. I love yoga. Those are my base for my movement. And anything else that I might do is extra. But knowing what you like to do from trial and error is going to really help you to stay more motivated to move. And also just making sure that you have time for it, that you create the time. We're all busy. There's always other things that seem more important, but even finding 20 or 30 minutes of time makes such an impact on how we're going to feel. And being able to put ourselves first, fill our cup before we fill others, whether it's in the early morning, lunchtime, nap time, after bed, whenever we can, it makes such an impact. And I am all for it, as you can tell. I think everybody should move in whatever way that makes them feel happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's fantastic. And it does make you, I agree with you. I just feel so much better when I've done some form of exercise as well. And the thing that I'm really loving at the moment is I go to Reformer Pilates, and it's just a 45-minute kind of workout, and it doesn't take up a big chunk of my day. And after I've done it, I feel like I've had a really great workout. So that's what I'm loving at the moment. What about you, Holly?
Yeah, well, I'm actually in a Reformer Pilates studio right now recording, because that has been my new thing. But so for so long, I had the mindset of I have to work out, and I hated going to the gym, but it was just like something that I did because you have to, and that's what you have to do to be healthy. And like in this last year, I've had a completely different shift where I've explored different types of exercises and different types of movements, just trying to find what I enjoy instead of doing the grueling boot camp that I liked because my friends were there, but I hated it and I wasn't recovering and I was miserable and I always wanted to barf. And I was like, this isn't fun to me. And so having that shift of like moving my body because I like the way I feel afterwards, I like the energy I have, I like doing it because I feel good and not because I feel like I'm going to die. Like that shift for me has like changed my whole world. Like now I look forward to exercising. I like waking up in the morning. I like moving my body. And it's just because I've found things that I enjoy that I'm doing because I want to and not because I feel like I have to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I love that. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Definitely.
It becomes like a reward for yourself instead of seeing exercise as almost a punishment or something on the to-do. Like when you find something that leaves you feeling good, it just brings more joy to your life instead of that like have to. It's like I get to work out.
Yeah. And I get to be nicer to my kids. I'm not yelling at them because you're right. Like it does make you feel better. And, I show up better for work. I show up better for my husband. I show up better for everything because I'm feeling good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will tell you ladies, this morning I was like, I'm going to do strength training because it gives me like the most mental clarity. And I knew I was going to be talking to you guys. So I was like, I'm going to do that kind of workout because I know like the effect that it will give me throughout the day. It's kind of funny how exercise does that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so Heather, do you have anything exciting coming up? Like what's on the horizon for you? Anything you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, so the meal plan membership is continuing on, and I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I would love to offer your listeners a free week trial if they want to check it out. I can send you the link for that. Do you have show notes?
We sure do.
You do? Okay, perfect. I will send that to you. And my podcast has been on a hold since the end of 2020. So coming up, hopefully in the next few months, it'll be coming back. I'm going to be bringing a co-host on. More to come on that. So
the co-hosts make it so fun.
I know. I feel like I need to ask you ladies about how that works. So I'm excited about that. And I've been sharing little bits about this, but I am in the middle of writing a cookbook, and that's been in the works for a while. It's related to healthy baking with your kids. So if anybody wants to have updates about that as I share, if they want to sign up for my email list, I share those updates there. So I can send you a link for that. So that's coming in kind of the end of 2021.
Well, that's exciting stuff. So your website is fitmamarealfood.com?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then that's also where people can find you on Instagram, right? Are you anywhere else, or is it your website and Instagram? Where else are you active?
Those are the most two that I'm active on. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, but if you want to actually engage with me, find me on Instagram at fitmamarealfood. It's my favorite place to be. And everything can be found on my website. So my newsletter, the meal plan membership trial.
Enjoyed the podcast. Come continue the conversation
Wonderful.
on our Facebook
well, we will
page, or
link
leave a
up
review
your
on Apple Podcasts
website and social on the show notes, as well as a link to that free trial for the meal prep. That sounds amazing. And if anyone else wants to reference the articles we've been chatting about today, they will be in the show notes as well. So Heather, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. Leah, do you have anything you want to add? Or
No, I'm feeling really inspired now. It's breakfast time here, so I'll be upstairs getting ready to get in the kitchen with those kids. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thank you.
That is the end of today's episode. Our theme music is created by Andrew Bowden, and production services are by Kevin Kennedy Spain of Disc of Light Media. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Low Carb Conversations podcast with Leah, Holly Jean, and Amber, functional nutritional therapy practitioners and guests.
If you enjoyed the podcast, come continue the conversation at our Facebook page or leave a review on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us.
You can find everything we discussed today and more at the Low Carb Conversations website, www.lowcarbconversations.com.
And be sure to join us again next week for more Low Carb Conversations.